Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks once wrote, "We humans are genetically predisposed to pay more attention to the bad than the good. For sound biological reasons, we are hyper alert to potential threats and dangers, but it takes focused attention to become aware of how much we have to be grateful for." Over the past few years, we have been surrounded by negativity, and it's not as if these dangers we hear about do not exist. Quite the opposite. On May 17th, 2022, President Joe Biden warned Americans about rising hate and violence against the LGBTQ+ community. The ADL found that in 2021, anti-Semitic acts reached a record high since 1979, a reality that has reared its ugly head these past couple of weeks. Between March 2020 and June of 2021, there were more than 9,000 anti-Asian hate incidents reported. Discrimination against Muslim Americans has increased 9% since 2020. And the list goes on. These realities consume our attention, mostly because they should, because it is important that we stand against hatred and violence directed at any individual or group, but also because, as Rabbi Sacks wrote, it is a human tendency to focus on the bad. As we near Thanksgiving, I want to challenge us tonight to focus on the good. In the Talmud, as I mentioned earlier, rabbis sometimes refer to Shabbat as Me'ein Olam Haba, a taste of the world to come, as in a reminder of our aspirations, of the best humanity can be. So let us get a taste on this Shabbat Eve. Just yesterday, I had the privilege of attending the American Jewish Committee, AJC of Westchester Fairfield's annual diversity breakfast, supported and promoted by communal partners, of which our very own Westchester Reformed Temple is one. I sat among over 300 of our Westchester neighbors, each gathering to celebrate shared values, each devoted to communal action that affects positive change in our world. We, the audience, listened to mayors, governors, senators, clergy people, and lay people of many different faiths, ethnicities, races, and sexual orientations, all acknowledging the recent increase in anti-Semitism, only to stand in solidarity against it. We learned about people's backgrounds of intersectionality, like New York Lieutenant Governor Anthony Delgado's wife, who is both Black and Jewish. Together, they are raising their twin boys to be Jewish. New York State Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins reminded us that every participant at that event has known what it feels like to be an other. Rather than engaging in oppression wars, we are instead bonded, changed, charged to love one another, to lean into kindness, to free the world from hate and discrimination. This week's Parashat Chayei beautifully reflects the values of this AJC diversity breakfast in just one compounded word: ger v'toshav, alien resident. When Abraham's wife Sarah dies, Abraham searches for a place to bury her so that she may rest in peace. When Abraham introduces himself to the locals, the Hittites, he states, "Ger v'toshav, anochi imachem." I am a stranger resident with you. Not to be confused with ger toshav, the letter which is lacking the vav between the words. So we have ger v'toshav and ger toshav. And this letter vav fuses these two words into one identity, and thus creates a different definition and implication. The term ger comes from the infinitive lagur, meaning to live or to dwell temporarily, whereas the term toshav comes from the infinitive lashevet, which means to sit or to reside in for an extended period of time, if not permanently. So many rabbis have debated the seemingly inherent contradiction in this language. How can one be both a stranger and a longtime resident? 19th century Rabbi Malbim offers a logical explanation. Abraham is presently a stranger, having migrated to a new land. He, however, wants to purchase a property so that he can establish himself as a resident. Mid-13th century Rabbi Chizkuni disagrees and argues that Abraham has for years now been in this new land. So Chizkuni understands this compound, ger v'toshav, to be an expression of the tension Abraham feels as his identity undergoes transition. As an immigrant, Abraham considers himself a stranger, even though he qualifies as a resident. I would like to suggest further that ger v'toshav is not a contradiction if we interpret this compound as a metaphor for the various aspects of who we are, rather than confining our entire identity into one box. In other words, ger v'toshav can imply, I am always at once, both an other and one of you. Do we in the Jewish community not relate to Abraham? Many of us have been citizens in America since birth, but considering the rising tide of anti-Semitism, we might feel like an other, like a stranger in our own native country. Yesterday's AJC Diversity Breakfast demonstrated that every single human being is constantly both a stranger and a resident. Though many of us who were present are affiliated with different religions and are members of different racial and ethnic groups, we are also neighbors, bound together by the proximity of living in Westchester and Fairfield counties, by our shared humanity. And within the Jewish community alone, Lieutenant Governor Delgado proved that although we as Jews may share in elements of our Jewish tradition, perhaps we do not share other facets of our identities, like our race, our sexual orientation, or political perspectives. Therefore, the words ger and toshav are coupled to teach us that no two people are the same, and no two people experience life unscathed. What is most important about Abraham's self-definition, however, is actually what follows ger v'toshav. These are his words of unity, Anochi imachem. I am with you all. We may not be the same, but we choose to be here together. My hope in speaking about the AJC Diversity Breakfast is to remind all of us that even when it feels like the world is not with us, there are scores of people who are. And on the flip side, that we have the potential to help people both inside and outside of our Jewish community to feel more like residents than strangers in the spaces we inhabit. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs reminds us that as human beings, we tend to focus on the negative. And yet this Shabbat, a taste of the world to come, can offer us a glimpse into our highest potential. So I'd like to close with a prayer of unity from yesterday's event as a glimmer of hope, as an indication of the love and positivity that can exist around us, that we can and should embody through our own actions. God, creator of all, we pray for an America of the people, by the people, for the people, in all its religious, racial, and ethnic diversity, coming together in unity. Our struggles to be free, inspired by the exodus at Plymouth Rock toward independence for civil rights and enfranchisement, continue to inspire us. We are heirs of many proud traditions that have known oppression and labored for liberation. We will not desist until all are redeemed. Our religious traditions call upon us to emulate our God as healer, love our neighbor, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and strive together towards greater works. At a time when hate is rising, we commit to modeling love. When racism and anti-Semitism rear their ugly heads, we will show the better way, how light overcomes darkness and justice defeats evil. We pray that you, God, will be with us as we join together in fixing the broken and fulfilling the promise of a healed world.